Good afternoon, everyone. We are now at 1:05, and the plan is to gavel in approximately 1:10 just due to some technical issues on my end. And so if you just bear with me for just a minute, we'll be right with you, but thank you all for being here. We'll get started soon.
Representative, you're muted.
I swear I pressed the button. Thank you. I have been having technical difficulties all day, so thank you all for being here and for bearing with me. I'd like to convene the meeting of the Committee on Children. Today is Thursday, March 11th, 2021. I'd like to offer a moment to my wonderful co-chair if he's with us. You might not have known that we were gavelled in since I was the one who was late. I sincerely apologize. I'm sure he'll be tuning in any second. Mr. Clerk, if you could just send him that message that I have gavelled in, if he can be here. Let's say a quick welcome from our Vice Chair, Representative Wielander. Would you like to say hello?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everyone. Looking forward to the meeting.
Great, thank you so much. Senator Martin, is there anything you'd like to throw in today?
No, just say hello to everyone as well and just ready to go.
Thank you for being here, sir. We appreciate you. Representative Dauphine.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone, and let's get it going.
I love that can-do attitude, Rep. Dauphine. You're beginning to be one of my most favorite smiling faces here, so we appreciate that. Senator Anwar, hi. Would you like to say a few words, sir?
No, I will just echo what the ranking members have said. Let's get the show on the road.
Let's get the show on the road. Let's get this party started, as they say. Okay, we can do that. I just do need to do some housekeeping here. As always, meetings will be conducted at a slower pace to accommodate the quality of the live stream and to preserve the integrity of the vote. All participants will be muted until they are required to speak. Members must raise their virtual hand to signify a desire to speak and wait to be recognized. To do so, please open the participant pane and click raise hand at the bottom of the panel. For roll call votes, committee staff will visually authenticate the voter. Members are requested to state their name and vote. Honestly, I forget this all the time, so I will just say it again to get it into my brain. State your name and vote. For voice votes, the chair will announce the following. Please prepare yourself for a voice vote by unmuting your microphone. Just to note, even in a voice vote, you must have your camera on. The clerk will remind us if someone's camera was not on. The use of emoticons, as in the clapping hands or thumbs up, is not allowed. And the use of chat, either public or private, is not allowed. All chat records are saved by default and therefore could be subject to FOIA requests. And votes will be held open until 4 o'clock or until all members have voted, whichever comes first. So moving on to number 3 on the agenda, bills for review. We are going to start with House Bill number 6565, an act concerning children's services, which is a JF to the floor. Can I please have a motion?
I make a motion to start a consent calendar. This is Representative Comey.
Why, thank you, Representative Comey. I appreciate that. Are there any objections? Hearing none. Just a quick question to LCO. We don't need to vote on that because there's no objections, correct?
No, a consent calendar can be opened without objection.
Excellent. Thank you so much. See, I'm getting the hang of that. Okay, so do we have, I don't believe we have the ability to put this on consent. So I'm just going to now ask, even with the consent calendar being open, I am going to ask for a motion to JF it to the floor.
Seconded.
So move.
So we've moved and seconded. Are there any discussions regarding this bill? I'll do a quick, this is one of those that we call a shell bill, and we do this. Essentially, what we've done in the past here is that we put out this bill known as an act concerning children's services. This is one of a few that the committee does. And essentially in the past, what we've done is we've rescued some really great bills that have not been, that have already gotten a public hearing, but were not voted out of their respective committees. And if they somehow focus on children, we can rescue them and put them to a vote. And one of the ones that we did back in 2018 actually was a Republican bill that we took from public safety, We voted it, we put it in one of our shell bills, and then it passed unanimously on the floor of both chambers, and it is now in law, and it's actually heralded as some life-saving legislation. So there is a real action for this. And with that, is there anyone that would like to comment? Representative Dauphiné.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that just for general purposes, I generally don't support, well, I call them dummy bills. I know you had a different name for them, but I just wanted to say that I'll be a no on this bill. Thank you.
Completely understandable, Rep. Dauphiné, and I will say that you are nothing if not consistent. So thank you very much for that. Is there any other comment for this? Senator Anwar, hello.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to clarify. So the reason we need the bill is that there are some deadlines that are in place, right? And if those deadlines cross, we as a legislative body is unable to place any bill. And if we have another situation that develops in our state that needs an intervention, and we want to be able to address that rather than waiting for 1 year or 2 years to address that legislatively, this actually is a protection on behalf of the people. Is that a fair understanding?
That is a very fair understanding. And the example that I gave actually proves that fact. So here in the Committee on Children, as you are well aware, Senator, as my wonderful co-chair, we are committed to the safety and well-being of kids all across Connecticut. And deadlines sometimes, because we're one of the early deadline committees, that sometimes hinders us from being able to do that. So that is why we have these shell bills. You're 100% correct, sir.
And there's no rule saying that if somebody is against the shell bills, they can still, let's say, for example, Representative Dauphiné says that she's against shell bills. But if there's some situation develops in her district or my district or anything, and if I say I'm against it too, I can still use it to be able to benefit the people I represent.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. A no vote today is not a no vote if we put different language in it. Absolutely not. And so with that, that's a really great point that I want to make. Anyone who feels that this would be appropriate for something that they care about, we can always have that conversation. And voting yes today does not mean you have to vote no later, and voting no today does not mean you have to vote yes later. And it's not even guaranteed that any legislation will come to the floor through this shell bill.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify because I heard in one of the other committees, one person said, oh, these are dangerous activities. These are bypassing the process. And so it creates a narrative, which is actually a false narrative. I want to make sure that people know why this is there. And it has been used by both parties. It's not a partisan issue. It is just a vehicle to actually make sure that we have a system in place to protect our citizens if something comes and we have to still follow the rules and then be able to still have a mechanism to address something that may come up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And thank you for stating that. I really do appreciate that for those that are watching who may be not familiar with the process.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Representative Dauphiné.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to kind of spin off of what Senator said, I just wanted to add that oftentimes these bills that are put into the shell bills or dummy bills don't have a public hearing. And I know that is a concern. So when you're talking about the process, that does happen. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Sure, you're very welcome, Representative. I will say, though, that in the times that we've used shell bills in this committee, everything has had a public hearing. So we try our best to do that. But in this committee with myself as one of the chairs, I don't believe we've ever put forward legislation that didn't have a public hearing. But I absolutely recognize your concern. So thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to do a voice vote on this. Are there any objections to a voice vote? Okay, seeing none, I ask you to please prepare yourself for a voice vote by unmuting your microphone. Oh,
Madam Chair, we're supposed to be doing a voice call because I was.
You want a roll call?
A roll call, please.
That's fine, sure.
This is a vote for final action on the bill, so you'll need a roll call.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my apologies. Yep, absolutely. Let's do a roll call on House Bill 6565. Mr. Clerk.
Representative Linehan.
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Saud Anwar.
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Welander,
Representative Welander votes yes.
Senator Bradley, Representative Dauphinais,
Representative Dauphinais votes no.
Senator Martin,
Senator Martin votes yes.
Representative Boyd,
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey,
Representative Comey votes yes. Thank you.
Representative Foster,
Representative Foster votes yes.
Representative Luxembourg,
Representative Luxembourg votes yes.
Representative Green,
Representative Green votes no.
Representative Lanu,
Representative Lanu votes no.
Senator Cohen,
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore. And I'm
Great.
sorry, Senator Cohen, you did not show up. Can you vote one more?
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all so much. And again, votes will be held open until 4 p.m. or until all members have voted, whichever comes first. Moving on to item number 2, House Bill 6566, an act concerning the safety of children purchasing frozen desserts from ice cream trucks. This is LCO number 5003, JFS to the floor. Can I have a motion?
So move. Senator.
I make a motion to put on the consent calendar. Were we going to put this one on the?
Yes, thank you, Representative. We have a second to put it on the consent calendar.
So seconded.
Seconded by Representative Welander. Is there any conversation about this? Oh, go ahead, Senator, please.
Madam Chair, so I moved and I think we should just second it before we move it to the, just to make sure that there's no.
Just make sure it's all covered. Yeah, do we have a second for the motion?
I can second that as well.
Great, thank you so much. So we have it moved and seconded and then moved and seconded to put on consent. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody for their work on this bill. We appreciate you all so much. And so with that said, we will move this item to consent. Moving on to number 3, House Bill 6508, an act concerning remote learning attendance, LCO number 4641, JFS to the floor. First, can we have a motion
So move.
and a second?
Second, the motion.
Can I have a motion to move to consent?
I will make a motion to put on consent.
And can we second that? I
Second.
almost said second that emotion.
Second.
Great, thank you, sir. Are
Madam
there
Chair?
any, yes.
Senator Martin has a virtual hand raised.
great, thank you, sir. Senator Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick note, this is a bill that really, in my opinion, really probably should have went to the Education Committee early on. But I'm going to be, obviously voting yes because of it being placed on consent. But it really, once it hits the floor, it really should go to the Education Committee, particularly because it has to deal with the remote learning aspect of this, and it's really their jurisdiction on this here. So, all right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And your objection is noted, sir. Also, another reason why I hate working from home, I apologize for the noise from the dog. Okay, so we have that moved to consent. There's no objections to that? Okay, great, thank you. That item has been moved to consent. Moving on to number 4, House Bill 6509, an act concerning school-based mental health clinics, a JF to the floor. Can I have a motion, please?
So move.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Representative Welander, would you like to give a quick rundown of this bill for our members?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is a bill that I'm hoping will be the first step in identifying a solution to an absolutely, in my opinion and the opinion of many people who testified, critical issue that our schools and our school communities are going to be facing in the future. And just wanted to clarify, in case there were still any concerns, that what this bill does is identify what areas and what school districts throughout our state do not have access to this type of mental health care or to this type of care, and to help them make a plan. So if they choose to, they know, the district will know what steps to take next. So this is just hopefully, like I said, a first step in identifying what areas are lacking this very important service, and helping districts make a plan to create this system, this clinic, if they choose to.
Thank you very much, madam. I appreciate your time. Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my understanding, so this won't be a mandate for our school systems as of right now. So this is a choice that a school can have.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I definitely appreciate the intent of the bill. The one thing that concerns me as a parent, you do lose control where a parent isn't necessarily notified when their child is in some type of social in a social work setting with another adult. And I think that is a little concerning for me, and I appreciate the fact that a student can go into one of these clinics, but the one thing that concerns me is they're not talking to the parent on the other end. So if they're having a relationship with the child and the parent isn't aware of it, and the child's going home and they don't know all these issues are going on, that kind of leaves the parent out of a loop there. And I think it needs to be a team effort. As we always say, it takes a village to raise a child. However, I think this takes the parent out of the loop. So that's my concern, though I do appreciate the intent of it. And I do appreciate the fact that it's not a mandate, but I'm just concerned that the parent is out of the loop. So I will
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Welander, is there anything that you wanted to comment regarding Representative Green's points?
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. And I will say, as a parent, I share that concern. I want to be as involved with my child's mental and physical health as possible. In follow-up conversations during the testimony, and then with other conversations that I had with the Connecticut Association of School-Based Health Centers, what they did clarify was there is a limit as to the number of visitations, the number of types of meetings that can be held without parental notification. And they actively work with the student to identify a trusted adult throughout the entire process. Because from my understanding, the number of meetings that are allowed to be held without parental notification is specifically to address students that may be in a moment of crisis, or that are in a situation where their trusted adults in their family may be part of the concern. And so it's to allow that moment of crisis to be addressed. But there is an active effort throughout the entire process to make sure that there is as much family and involvement as possible, because they do recognize that this is something that is a bigger picture issue. But thank you for sharing your concerns. I appreciate it.
But
thank you very much.
The one thing that concerns me, I sent my son when he was 17 years old to the dentist by himself, and he couldn't have his teeth cleaned without my consent. But yet you can have your child be seen by a social worker without your knowledge whatsoever. So I mean, I just think that's a little off kilter there, but I definitely appreciate the intent. But thank you so much for your response. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Green, thank you so much for that. And I see that there are my ranking members who have their hands up, and I'm going to call on you in just a second. Forgive me for skipping the order, but I recognize that Representative Comey may have an answer to that. So Representative Comey, if you could just quickly explain to everyone.
Thank you. So how school-based health centers work is that you actually have to sign your child up. You have to opt in to accept the service. So if you did not want your child to be seen by a school-based health center, then you just don't sign up for it, because they don't see children without them being enrolled in the plan. So that is one important point about this. In regarding your question or your comment about the dentist, was that I'm not sure that if it's appropriate to ask a question, but do
No,
you
it's-
think that that was a policy within the practice, or?
Representative Green.
No, I mean, thank you, Representative, but no, it wasn't a policy. It was, they are not permitted to perform that on a minor without a parent's consent. And with regards with a parent opting in, my understanding is they're allowed to have 6 visits without a parent being involved. Is that correct? So
Representative Comey.
how does a parent opt in with that?
That is not my understanding, but perhaps, I mean, that is not my understanding. My understanding, and when I've had to receive services from the school-based health center, I had to fill out 3 pages of paperwork to make it happen.
Mhm.
Representative Green.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you very much, Representative Comey. Senator Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm a little confused regarding whether or not parents are regarding the sign up portion of this and regarding the ability of a student to go see the health clinician regarding some type of emergency. I don't see that. How does this signature come into play if you do have a requirement for a signature, but yet there's an emergency? Where does that, is there a signature required or not? If someone could answer that. And I just got a few other things, but go ahead. Someone could answer.
Senator Martin, I believe what Representative Comey said is that she had to fill out a form opting into the service. So let me ask Representative Comey. Representative Comey, did you fill out that form for the service prior to your child needing the service, or was it in response to your child needing the service?
We can't hear you.
School-based health centers operate in school buildings. And so it is in addition to the nurse's office. So what happens is a student will go to the nurse's office for care. If they need further assistance, if a parent agrees and they need further assistance, a comprehensive approach to healthcare, like what is school-based health centers do, then they will have to get approval from the parent by phone, and then make sure that they have the appropriate paperwork filled out to enroll the student in the school-based health center. Am I making sense on that, sir? Answering your question?
Sure, to some extent, thank you. But Representative Leelander, can you address the emergency portion of this regarding is there a sign up that's required by the parent? Or I would imagine if it's no, most likely is the answer, because if it is an emergency.
Representative Leelander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me see if I can answer your question. Just want to clarify 2 things. One, I thank you to Representative Comey for reminding me about the opt-in, because I did fail to mention that in my first statement. The second is that what this bill is proposing is a mental health clinic, a school-based mental health clinic, with the option, if the school chooses to expand it to become a full health center, then they can. But this is specifically to address the mental health crisis that we are identifying in students across the state and in the country, to be honest. My understanding is that the family it's not an automatic enrollment. So if there was one in my child's school, I could choose to allow them access to the services that are provided by the mental health center. I don't have to, because it operates as an outpatient clinic. So that's something that we could still continue to work with our own providers, but it would be there as an option for families if they so chose to enroll their students in it. With regards to the emergency, that is something I may be able to clarify in just a second for you. I can look that up. But my understanding is that if they are enrolled, they can see emergency services for mental health support without parental notification. Otherwise, if it was a crisis moment, the school nurses and school psychologists and school counselors would step in. But that would be in an emergency moment of response, where that the way that a school system normally addresses and typically addresses mental health crisis moments now.
Okay, thank you. Just two other notes. One is I'm going to be a no because of the some maybe lack of understanding on my part, and I'd like to have better understanding. But that parental notification and the parent involvement in all of this, as well as I think we're out of our lane, though I understand why we're addressing it as a children's committee, but this really belongs in a health committee as well as the education committee. So for those reasons, I'll be a no on this vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, just wanted to add in from the perspective of school-based healthcare centers. So they're already in existence, and the school-based healthcare centers require parental permission to be able to see, and also they would ask about who to call in an emergency. So it's almost like you're going to a doctor's office, except that the physical location is right in the school, which has been very effective because many of the families are restricted and or have logistical challenges that have restricted them to be able to make time to go specifically to a doctor's office or a clinician's office. So this bill does not create a new system. It actually allows the existing system to potentially expand and then make sure that, look, the school-based healthcare centers are more in the inner cities right now, but for every practical purpose, they should also be in rural communities if they choose that, because the challenges that the children are having are across the board. You don't have to be in a rural part of the state or beyond to be able to have the stresses that the children are facing. So this bill gives that option for the schools to make their own choices, but it is not taking away parental authority or parental capacity to be able to intervene, because the insurance and the requirements initially are there, and they're pretty much standard, and they've been functioning in that standard way for quite a few years. I just wanted to make sure I clarify for my colleagues about that. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you so much, Senator. Your explanation was very important. Thank you. Representative Dauphinais.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with my colleagues' concerns with regard to the parental notification. I know Rep. Green brought that up, but what I will say is I know that they've been in existence. I have big concerns that a child could be visiting with somebody for 6 entire visits before a parent would even be given notification about that. And I think that this is very clear in both the existing and the plan to expand that. So while maybe a first visit might be an emergency, certainly the second, third, fourth, and fifth and sixth one would be, again, I would have concern that a parent would not be notified with regard to that. If you look at SB2, which we'll be talking about probably on Monday, it even talks about broadening that opportunity and broadening the opportunity to have more visits and perhaps without parental notification, if so. So it was understood that it was needed by people listed in the bill. But I just wanted to say I'll be a no on this as well. I'm always concerned when parents are taken out of the picture in any way, shape, or form with regard to decisions with their children or services with regard to their children. And I know there's the cost element to that as well. So I'm assuming that this will also go to APROPS for funding, correct?
Representative, when we send it to the floor screening will determine that it needs to go there. My guess is yes. But ultimately, when we send it to the floor, it gets moved faster, we're told.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
On the financial end, maybe I just clarify that too, Madam Chair. On the financial end, the school-based healthcare centers are self-sustaining. They actually rent the space, and then the Board of Education gets paid for that rental of that space if they have that space. So it is not a burden on the Board of Education locally or statewide because they are functioning in such a manner. Now, do they get state grants? Yes, there have been state grants to be able to help out, but that's not part of the budget, and there's no question about expansion of that, at least in this bill. I just want to make sure that I clarify that. So it may not necessarily have to go for appropriation because it's budget neutral from that perspective if the schools chose that. Because of course the choices with the school system, if God forbid they're seeing a big increase and they want to intervene, they have that choice. It's not mandated. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. And to note that when we send this to the floor, it will also get a fiscal note, which will better help Rep. Dauphine and anyone else to understand that it would be fiscally neutral. So that's great news.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that while it may be under state grants and or federal money, it's still tax dollars that we'll be spending on these. And I just wanted to say there is a cost. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Madam. Representative Welander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank everyone for their feedback and their concern, shared concern for this crisis. I also just wanted to just point out again that this bill specifically is not to create new spaces. This is just to allow a plan to move forward that would identify areas of need. Specifically, whether it's just barriers because of transportation or lack of services because we do not have enough child clinicians for mental health services, but that this plan would bill would just allow for a plan to be moved forward that the Department of Public Health and the Connecticut Association of School-Based Health Centers would able to just identify areas of need and give those districts a step-by-step plan that if they chose, they could implement something. So they had that option. It is not forcing any district to do it. It is not forcing it to happen. Even if an area is identified, it is just to look and make sure that we know where our children need the most help. So thank you for that time. I appreciate that. And again, thank you for everyone's feedback.
Thank you very much, Representative. And thank you so much for your hard work and dedication on this. It's really great that we have a committee that is focused on protecting the mental health of children. And I think that in the pandemic, it's become increasingly more important. So thank you very much. I see no other hands raised. So I believe, Mr. Clerk, it's time to put this to a vote, sir. Can you call the roll?
Representative Linehan.
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Anwar.
Senator Anwar votes yes. Thank you.
Representative Welander.
Representative Welander votes yes.
Senator Bradley.
Senator Bradley votes in the affirmative.
Representative Dauphine.
Representative Dauphine votes no.
Senator Martin.
Senator Martin votes no.
Representative Boyd.
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey.
Representative Comey votes yes.
Representative Foster. Representative Luxembourg.
Representative Luxembourg votes yes.
Representative Green.
Representative Green votes no.
Representative Lanu.
Representative Lanu votes no.
Senator Cohen.
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore. Representative Foster, are you still there?
Thank you, sir. And once again, votes are held open until 4 p.m. Moving on to item number 5, House Bill 6510, an act requiring the provision of information concerning children's mental health services in hospital emergency rooms. LCO number 4698, JFS to the floor. Can I have a motion, please?
So move.
And a second?
I
Uh-oh.
second.
Thank you very much, Representative Comey. So the motion,
Put
I'm
on
sorry?
consent calendar, make a motion to put on consent.
Absolutely. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, that item will be placed on consent. Thank you. Moving on to number 6, House Bill 6.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Representative Dauphine has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Once again, you're in my upper left corner and I can't see that hand. Hi, Rep. Dauphine. What can we do for you?
I just wanted to say I am a yes on this bill, but I just wanted to point out that it seems to me like with the JFS language that came out, there were some changes made, and it went from being information on websites to now pamphlets that are going to be handed out. And I wanted some clarification. It looks like they would be handed out in perhaps a hospital and or a setting where children might be from another state or from another district, so they might need to be district specific. So for example, if you had a child in Cheshire that was visiting somebody in Stamford and they were at a Stamford hospital, they would need Cheshire information. So I was just trying to point that out. It did add a little element of additional involvement, if you will, with this bill.
Right, absolutely. So typically, emergency rooms do see children from other areas. However, at the time, the information that is put together that will be given out most of the time would be not town specific, but it would be the district lines that are drawn for the mental health perspective, right? So if you're in Cheshire, you would get areas around you that may have Waterbury, New Britain, it's not just Cheshire specific, it's really about the area. However, it's not a pamphlet. What it is it's printed paper. So if you've ever visited an emergency room and let's say you broke your leg, and you're discharged with instructions like to keep it elevated, when to put ice, when to do heat, something like that. It's in that packet of information. So that's the packet. So there's like not a folded pamphlet that needs to be distributed. So theoretically speaking, and maybe it's something that we can clarify as we move down the road, that any service area for Connecticut, the hospital will have access to that information. As far as out of state, I don't know what we could do for out of state, but typically, if someone's coming in for a mental health break, they're most likely going to be from Connecticut. It's not like if someone is playing an outside sports team is coming here to play and they break their leg and they have to go to a local emergency room. Usually these emergency rooms, when dealing with the mental health of children and adolescents, they're really coming from home. But we will make sure that the information for every district is available to hospitals should they need it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate you bringing that up to me, and we'll work on that together as we move forward. Any other questions or comments? And hearing none, that item is moved to consent. Thank you all very much. Moving on to House Bill 6511, an act requiring background checks for youth sports coaches, trainers, and instructors, LCO number 4648. It's a JFS to the floor. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. The bill has been moved and seconded. I'll give a brief description. The JFS language for this is very similar to what was asked for in committee. It does not require a fingerprint. What it does say is that it is requiring that names be checked against the background checks that we have been talking about the whole time, which would be the abuse and neglect registry, the sex offender registry, utilizing state registries. But in addition, the coaches, trainers, and instructors can be checked through a national background check, which may include fingerprints, that is given by a third party. And if they do that through a third party, then they have fulfilled the requirements in this statute. So that's an important part. And I'd like to thank everybody who worked on that with me, because we found some language that we believe that people were happy to move forward. And with that, are there any questions? Representative Foster.
Hi, folks. I'd like to just take a moment to sort of talk about how this would have impacted or potentially impacted a tragedy that occurred in my town and community. Some of you may have known about 2.5 years ago, an arrest was made for a man who was trafficking children out of, he had a business in Manchester and Vernon, and he was a municipal employee for a program that collaborated with our school system and worked with a volunteer ambulance corps. This man had regular interaction in a coaching capacity with kids through this extracurricular program. And I don't have access to this registry, obviously, but there were multiple people who came up to me and other elected officials after this man went to jail and said that they had previously filed complaints. And he likely, although an investigation was underway and it took time for his arrest to occur, he likely would have been on that registry prior to his arrest. And so I am hearing sentiments and concerns from my fellow committee members about the idea of due process. But I'd like to remind folks, and we had this conversation with Representative Howard, who has policing experience, which I think we should lean on heavily in bills like this, because we're talking about things that are ultimately tragic, dangerous, and horrifying to be happening to children in our communities, that sometimes, or always, policing doesn't occur in the 45 minutes of a Law and Order episode. And sometimes building a case takes years. And sometimes you can have a lot of credible reason to believe someone is a threat. And they're a known threat on a DCF registry, but they have not yet been through the legal system and arrest has not yet been made. And that was the case with this man. And I believe that as people who care for our communities, that means looking out for the safety and best interest for the children in our communities. And I hear the concerns of my colleagues about the concept of due process, but I do believe that there is a due process in the system. DCF has explained to us that people can get off of the system. In fact, hundreds of people do in a calendar year. And that if we are advocates for the well-being of children, we have to err on the side of caution. And caution of the health and well-being of children, not caution on the people who do not have a constitutionally protected right to work with children. They can work in another field if that is appropriate for them, if they're on this registry. But the ability to work with children, we should always, always err on the side of safety for the children. And I just want to make sure that that's known. The proceedings of this man's trial make me physically ill to read. And I don't think that anyone wants to be in the situation where Ellington is after saying, should we have been taking a more cautious approach? Was there something else that could have done that would have kept this man away from children sooner? And I believe in my heart of hearts that none of you want to find yourself in that situation ever. I had someone when I was guest lecturing at UConn who came up to me and said, oh, he took all our student ID pictures in rooms alone. Where do you think those pictures are now? And that's a horrifying concept, that this man had access to children in vulnerable situations, potentially grooming them when we knew he was dangerous and a threat to children, when there were people who knew and were aware that he was a threat. And so I urge you all to vote with the best interest of children in mind on this bill. And thank you so much for listening to me ramble.
Thank you so much, Representative Foster. I really certainly wouldn't call it a ramble. I think that you are passionate about this. And I thank you, and the children of Connecticut thank you. That is a horrible story. And hopefully we will do our best to stop that from happening again with a number of bills that we have out of this committee this year. So thank you very much. Representative Green.
I do, once again, I do like the intent of this bill. The only thing that concerns me is typically these are your parents. These are parents of the kids who are typically the coaches. So I'm just concerned that might discourage some families from participating. And the fact that we already have a shortage of coaches right now. And I'm just afraid that might scare parents away. With not the background check, but just the whole hoopla of everything. And I know that's a bad word, what I'm saying, but I'm just a little concerned that it might just stop people from wanting to volunteer their time. And not because of the background check, but just the fact that it's just another layer that they have to do.
Thank you, Representative Green. I understand that concern, and I think we've heard that concern a few times with other bills surrounding coaches, not necessarily the background checks, but more along the lines of like concussion training and things that require a great deal of training. I will just say that these background checks would be done by the organization and not the people themselves. So there's not really any hoopla associated with them. And I agree with that word because there's really no other word. However, I also want to point out that there are numerous organizations that are already utilizing the background checks. And that is why in this bill, we put in that the you can use a national third-party background check service because there are many groups here in Connecticut that are already doing that, and there's no shortage of coaches for them. So I think it's one of those, it's a valid concern because we want more coaches, but I think it's the validity lies in with possible long-term commitment to training, having to take hours and hours of online training, which I still think is important, but I know that that argument is very real in that. And I just would challenge you a little bit on whether or not that is the case for the background checks. But I hear what you're saying, and I think that in this case, I think we'll be fine. But we'll see what happens, because if we hear that, then maybe we revisit. But I think that our first and really at this point, only concern should be the safety of children. So thank you very much, Representative Green. Rep. Dauphiné.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And while I appreciate the intent of this bill, I do agree with Representative Green with the concerns with regard to background checks. I know in my own town, many parents volunteer. Sometimes the older siblings, sometimes college students that are perhaps just doing like a technical school at home and want to help out a little bit, and they'll jump in and help out. And I do see the same concerns that she has. Additionally, I know the DCF registry is a big concern for me. In this country, we are all allowed and due process. And we know that the people on this list have not gone through due process. They could have been accused and gotten on the list. And I know that Representative Howard spoke about that, and he didn't believe it was difficult to get off, but he hadn't had firsthand experience to that. I've spoken to 3 separate lawyers who have talked about that and said that people have been put on this list and have had trouble getting jobs, trouble adopting children, trouble in many aspects of their lives with regard to being on the list and trying to get off the list. I'm very concerned about that aspect of the background check as well. We also know that the sexual offender registry is available, and many people do that. And I do appreciate all the organizations that are already doing background checks. I just don't believe that this should be a mandate to anybody. And I think that when we listen to the testimony, testifying person after person, in particular one, I think from the YMCA, I think he said he had worked over a decade and had one turnover of somebody, but it wasn't even a sexual offense. It was some kind of a small petty crime that had come up with regard to his background check. So I did read the report you gave to me and sent over. It said 0.6% of those, 0.6% had been identified with one of the listed issues that you had here. And only one could have possibly even been any kind of sexual offense, which was exposure of sexual organs. I know individuals who have been put on that, had been found of a felony with regard to this because they were going to the bathroom outside, and that would be a male individual. So we don't know what that particular case was. I'm just sharing that. I know other college students have done some flashing and gotten in trouble with regard to that. So those were some of my thoughts on that bill. I just think that we need to be very careful with regard to looking for things. We know that, there's many people out there. I use the priests not to put them down, but it was such a politicized issue for a while with the priests that were molesting children, and for decades nobody ever knew that they were, so they had no record. So I'm not sure that this is really going to do the job. And according to the testimony that we heard, I didn't hear any one incident that was turned over with regard to, had a background check been done, they would have been identified as a sex offender. We also have in the housing committee right now where they're trying to now eliminate the ability for a landlord to actually do a background check with some of the very concerns that I pointed out. So in one regard, we're trying to do away with background checks, and here we're trying to add them in. And that includes apartment buildings with children. There's still, even if they have children in the building, with those individuals coming in, that would include them in that group of people that they're trying to eliminate the ability to use a background check and use that information against them. So I just wanted to share that with you, but I do appreciate the intent to protect children here, and I just wanted to thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Rep. Dauphinais. A couple of things to unpack there. Here in this committee, we're not hearing those housing bills. So I just want to make sure for those who are viewing, they understand that we're keeping that separate. That's in housing. And for the record, I agree with you on that. I believe background checks. I believe in background checks everywhere. We do what we can to protect children, especially in this committee. I will say, though, that the report that, just for the knowledge of everyone here, the report that Rep. Dauphinais is referencing, this is from a national background check vendor who has, in the state of Connecticut, in 2019, screened over 8,600 coaches, potential coaches. 2020 was 5,500, and in 2021, the year to date is 984. Of those felonies that Rep. Dauphinais mentioned, we did have exposure of sexual organs, but we also had first-degree assault with extreme indifference to human life, first-degree robbery with serious physical injury. We had sale of drugs, hallucinogens, and narcotics. We also had violation of a criminal restraining order. So, and to Rep. Dauphinais' point is that there were indeed some misdemeanors, but nothing in this bill says that if your background check is flagged for any of these items that you cannot be hired. It is then up to the camp or the what do we call it? Like the team, if you will, as to whether or not that is something that would preclude them from being hired. So if on this, if a background check comes up with operating without a driver's license, that's not going to necessarily preclude them from having a job. We also heard from people who said that they take a lot of this into account, where something might have happened 10 years ago and it's still on their record. Or we could talk about a youth camp, a youth sports football camp that I had a constituent talk to me about, that they actually work with endangered youth. And in that aspect, I think sometimes having someone with some of these misdemeanors on their record could actually prove helpful to steering kids into moving in the right direction, to say, I've been where you are. So we want to make it very clear that this is about gaining knowledge. And then finally, to Rep. Dauphinais' point about the abuse and neglect registry, we have had this discussion often and for many years. We are currently putting together information for members of this committee and of the legislature as a whole to show all the steps that someone can go through in order to get their names off of that registry. It is quite extensive, and it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. There are also numbers that were provided to us that show that hundreds are taken off of the list every year. Perhaps I submit to you that perhaps someone couldn't get off the registry because their offense was so egregious, and and they haven't shown any remorse, or they haven't kept their nose clean. I mean, I submit that if someone is not getting off the registry, it's not because of a lack of due process. It's because they belong there. So we will get that document to you. Quite honestly, I just haven't had the time to type it all out. I did it for the legislature back in 2017, where I read those things on the floor, or maybe it was 2018. So we have that information and we will get it to you. But your no vote today is absolutely understandable and recognized, but I do ask that in the future, as we move this to the floor, that you do view those documents and hopefully we can get you on board.
So thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to make a few comments. I know there's steps to take, but for the attorneys that I've spoken to, and there have been a handful, they are saying that it's very difficult to get off. And many of those people are not on for egregious accusations. And even if they are all afforded a day in court with proof of that. And so even if you have been accused of an egregious offense, it doesn't mean that you're guilty of it. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that is the problem with the DCF registry, which is used when doing these background checks. But thank you.
You're welcome. And I will just say before we move on to Representative Foster, that you know, there are opportunities for people to put forward proof. So it's not just he said, she said. You can introduce anything you'd like during those meetings that would either exonerate someone or go to underscore the need for them to be on that registry. So, but we'll get you that information. Representative Foster.
I just want to, I appreciate this conversation. I think it's helpful for us to understand and for people who are watching to understand how and why we're voting on this. So DCF did share some of this data with Representative Detective Howard. And so I just want to point out that they are stats on how many people are removed from the registry each year, and that there's multiple ways that you can be removed. Like you can be removed from lack of substantiation. You can be removed from the registry after an internal hearing. You can have appeals to the Superior Court, and you can have further registry appeals to the appellate court or higher. And so I don't think that the standard to allow people access to children in a way that can make them in a position of power, where children are a protected population that we should view as vulnerable in this situation. I don't think that we need to hold assessing risk to the same standards. Similarly to how I imagine that Representative Daphne or Green, perhaps particularly Representative Green, if you were hiring someone to work at one of your centers and you had reason to believe that they were a threat, I'm sure you wouldn't hire them. And this is just one more tool in your toolbox that you can say, here is some data. We know that it is not the same rigor as formal court proceedings, but perhaps there are officers who know that there's someone who is going through the due process system and who are at risk, who are calling through the DCF system. We heard that there's an accelerated reporting pipeline just yesterday from the was that 2 days ago from the Commissioner of DSS for officers and for teachers who are mandated reporters. So I think it's important to know that there are people, credible, trusted adults in our community that we rely on to make sure that our children are healthy and safe. Teachers, police officers, daycare providers, and those folks have an accelerated pathway if they have reason to believe that someone's at risk to work with our DCF system. If we can't use this registry for this mechanism, I think this is an excellent purpose for use of this. And again, like I don't want to have people persuaded by having to read the gut-wrenching report from our community, but I recommend that you read the court proceedings from the case of the man who's arrested from Ellington, because this man's crimes were horrific. And I think that if you can keep someone who is that level of threat to the community away from children, and perhaps there's someone who has to go through an appeal process and then can appeal it, and perhaps it takes a while. According to these stats, it looks like they've significantly cut down the time for review from 2015 to 2017. It was 106 days, which is 3 months to get off the registry and the appeal for for internal reviews. Now it's 24 days. That's less than a month. I mean, I think those are really reasonable turnarounds to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of children. And so I just urge my colleagues to elevate the concerns about safety. I mean, like, think about this as your own children in a setting where they are vulnerable. You're not with your kids all the time, and you want to be able to lean on and trust the coaches to be the same level of safety we anticipate for teachers and other people who are in authority for our children. And so I urge people to reconsider their no vote, because I think that this is important. I think this is really good, really good law that will protect children. And I just want people to know you do not want to be in a situation where you think, how much more noise could we have made in town? How much more pressure should we have applied for this person to not have access to children in the way that they do? It is something that I think about all the time. And I don't think you want to be in that situation where you say that person had access to our high schoolers. Did we do everything we could to prevent that? Did we shake down every last opportunity? I don't think you want to have to ever think that. So I urge you to consider voting yes for this. And look at some of the materials that DCF has provided. I think this is really important.
Thank you so much, Representative, for that heartfelt pause for a yes vote today. Representative Luxembourg.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the committee chairs and members, and also Rep. Foster for advocacy on this issue. The horrific crime that she has referenced actually occurred in my district, and I'm unfortunately familiar with that horrific case as well. And I just want to urge people to do the right thing here on this vote to protect children. But in addition to that, I also wanted to address a point of concern in terms of whether there would be any sort of larger scale hypocrisy in terms of policymaking based on something that might be happening in the housing committee. The right to housing and any policy considerations happening in the housing committee, very, very, very different standard in terms of fundamental rights than the right to have a job where you might be interfacing with children or might be in a position to damage children. So I just want us as policymakers to sort of be cautious about sort of false equivalencies, like, oh, we're doing one thing in one committee, but we're doing something hypocritical in another. I just don't see that as an appropriate equivalency. I think the right to housing and the right to have a specific job connected to children where a child could be in danger are just completely separate things. So I think here on the Children's Committee, we should stay in our sort of children-centric policy bucket. And I think voting this out of committee with a favorable vote is the right thing to do. So I'll be voting yes. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you very much, Representative Luxembourg. Rep. Dauphinaise.
I just wanted to remark with Rep. Luxembourg's comment. Landlords were testifying in housing, and I was part of housing last session. And with regard with their concern with not being able to do a background check and having apartments in that building with children, and we are talking about children, so I do believe it was relevant. Thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Representative. And seeing no other comments, Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Representative Linehan.
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Anwar.
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Welander.
Representative Welander votes yes.
Senator Bradley. Representative Dauphinaise.
Representative Dauphinaise votes no.
Senator Martin.
Representative Martin votes yes.
Representative Boyd.
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey.
Representative Comey votes yes.
Representative Foster.
Representative Foster votes yes.
Representative Luxembourg.
Representative Luxembourg votes yes.
Representative Green.
Representative Green votes no.
Representative Lanu,
Representative Lanu votes yes.
Senator Cohen,
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. And as a reminder, votes are held open until 4 o'clock or until all the members have voted, whichever comes first. Thank you. Now we'd like to move on to item number 7, House Bill number 6417, an act requiring background checks for certain employees of youth camps, LCO number 5023, a JFS to the floor. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
And a second?
Seconded.
Second.
Thank you. And Representative Boyd, would you like to give a quick summary of this legislation, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that has been on our docket for at least the 4 years that I've served in this committee. And I think we've kind of hit the right balance here. We've spent a lot of time talking with the representatives of the camps and the advocates, as well as the Office of Early Childhood, where they would like us to go. And based off the testimony, there's been a couple things, notable change. One, the fingerprint requirement has been removed for a number of reasons. The biggest one being is that desks can't deliver on the time frame that the camps were concerned about. Seasonal hiring often happens very, very fast, and the time frames right now for desks to return and get fingerprinting is in many cases may take the entire period of camp service. The other piece is that any accredited camp by a national accredited organization, the American Camp Association, as well as some of our national nonprofits, for them to accredit a camp, it also requires third-party background checks that are very similar to what's being required here. The other piece that came up in public hearing was the cost. And typically for the fingerprinting, it's an $85 cost, which it could be a significant burden at the time. So OEC is going to be doing the processing, and they're going to have a pretty streamlined process where camps are going to upload rosters with minimal information, and their staff are going to run the internal ones, in camps that are already doing the third-party national background checks. Can continue to do that, and that would satisfy the national requirements. So there's not an extra piece that involves there. The other piece that was put in at the request of the camps is really the idea that somebody can start working under strict supervision from folks that are background checks and their supervisor as well. And so we think we've kind of hit the balance there, and I appreciate everybody's work and the honest conversation between all different sides of this as well. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Boyd. I want to thank you very much for your diligent work on this. As you stated, that we've been working to get this bill over the finish line for years now. And its success, this is in large part due to your diligence. So I thank you very, very much. You've been a wonderful partner on this legislation, and I just wanted to publicly thank you, and I'm your concern in your work. Rep. Dauphiné.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I won't reiterate everything I said with regard to the previous bill, because I would feel the same about this bill as well, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dauphiné, and we appreciate you being brief. Thank you. Moving on to Senator Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't participate in the previous bill, but I look at them somewhat similar, though. My background as, my somewhat background is involved with the youth sports here in Bristol. Co-founded the Bristol Soccer Club. Ran over co-director of over 5, maybe close to 800 soccer players, youth soccer players here in the community for years. So they met on the administrative side, the board of directors side. I see the plus to having this, the assurance that the parents would have, knowing that we went a step further in protecting our children, I think speaks volumes. I think even from an insurance perspective, I think that might even be helpful. I can totally understand Representative Daphne's concern about the list. Maybe there's something that we can do once our session is completed, maybe to go over with DCF and maybe revisit those requirements that are needed to place somebody on, as well as taking somebody off. But and then more so for me is also hearing Representative Howard's how he, being a director of a football program, how he handles it as well. So I remember his somewhat passionate, and we quizzed him quite a bit regarding what he does and what it's required in this program. So I see this really as a preventive measure, and I'm glad to hear that Representative Boyd, worked out some of the details regarding this bill. But I'm sorry for not chiming in the previous bill. But I thought that these two bills are so similar. I'm surprised we didn't merge them, but there are probably some reasons why the chair decided not to do that. But so I am going to be a yes on this bill as well. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator. Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a quick question about the international campers. How does this bill affect them? Do they still go through their intense background check on their end, or do they do that and they do this background check as well?
Representative Boyd.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, they're really two separate processes. I mean, the reality is that an international staff member, unless they've worked in the United States previously, are really not going to show up on any of these lists. I know it's a pretty rigorous, I think it's the J1 visa that they have to do. So they're really two separate pieces, but they are going to get run again, but the chances are it's not going to bear anything.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Lanoue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to also reserve my comments for 6511, which is very similar to this bill before us, 6417. And just want to express, number one, I want to thank Representative Howard for his testimony before the committee, his expertise as being the director of a youth football program, as well as a police detective. I think yielded so much information. It was a wealth of information that he provided. So I want to thank him. I do want to thank you and Representative Boyd and the members of the committee for really working together and getting this in a good spot that's agreeable to the camping industry and making kids safer. I first learned of this issue when I was getting ready for freshman orientation in the end of 2018. I had watched a CBS This Morning, and there was a groundbreaking episode on there talking about a young boy from Texas who was 9 years old, had went away to camp. Several weeks later, came back and acted very, very differently, not for the better. And his mom knew there was something wrong. Come to find out, he was sexually molested by his camp counselor. Come to learn, this individual was a convicted child molester, and had there been a background check done, they would have clearly picked up on that, and there was not. And I was fortunate enough to get to know the family, speak to the family, and the impact that this has had on their lives has been absolutely horrible. And we see a lot of some of the stories that are certainly popping up in this state. A member of the legislature past session had come forward with a terrible experience he had in another state. But again, to point to Representative Howard's testimony, the youth sports programs, children's camps are at a heightened risk of being targeted by a sexual predator, and we want to make sure we have everything at our disposal to prevent that from happening as much as possible. There's been over 500 cases documented of sexual abuse allegations in camps, and very disturbing. There was a New York Times had done an investigative report where they infiltrated a chat room for self-proclaimed pedophiles, where in that chat room there was very disturbing dialogue where they were discussing one of the quote ideal places to target a child is at a children's camp. So we need to make sure we have all the every mechanism at our disposal to protect our children here in Connecticut. So this year, it looks like we're going to get this done. This is a great step forward, and we need to make sure we keep our children safe in Connecticut and keep them safe. And again, I want to emphasize this is not in any way an attack or an assault on our camps or youth programs. Most of the people who volunteer, who run these camps, run these organizations are wonderful, wonderful role models and wonderful, wonderful people. But we want to make sure that those who are looking to do harm to children are kept out and our children are protected. So this is a way to help protect our camps, make them stronger, and make sure that every camp is every positive experience that's meant to be for our children. And again, I want to thank the committee. I want to thank the camping industry and everybody who really worked very, very hard on this issue for a long time to get us to where we're at. Thank you, and I'm very excited and look forward to voting to move this bill out of committee and getting it into state statute. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Representative Lanoue, and thank you so much for your passionate support and commitment to helping write good legislation and get this passed for the safety of our kids. So thank you so much. With no other questions or comments, Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Representative Linehan,
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Anwar,
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Welander,
Representative Welander votes yes.
Senator Bradley, Representative Dauphinais,
Representative Dauphinais votes no.
Senator Martin,
Senator Martin votes yes.
Representative Boyd,
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey,
Representative Comey votes yes.
Representative Foster,
Representative Foster votes yes.
Representative Luxembourg, Representative Green,
Representative Green votes yes.
Representative Lanoue,
Representative Lanoue votes yes.
Senator Cohen,
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Moving on now to item number 8, Senate Bill 934, an act requiring the provision of information concerning mental and emotional health resources by school districts, LCO number 4653. It's a JFS to the floor. Can I have a motion, please?
So move.
And a second?
Seconded.
Thank you very much, Representative. Let's just give a quick discussion about this. What this does is it requires schools to give information to parents in 2 different ways. The first is through papers at school sent home to kids regarding mental and emotional health resources in their area. And the second one is that it needs to be on their website. And this is obviously in response to the mental health epidemic within the pandemic. And we know that that kids, especially adolescents, are really suffering right now, and that any information that we can give to assist parents to understand what their children may need is extremely important. I will also add that the substitute language does include information, child-friendly information to also be given out in an age-appropriate manner in health class, and it must include a crisis text line. Are there any questions or comments on this? Rep. Dauphine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to say, I believe that the JFS language changed this. It was supposed to initially be just on the website, information with regard to this, and now it has become a mandate with the requirement of distribution of pamphlets in health class. And I know that we were discussing it prior to the meeting, and just wondered if perhaps maybe it could be a hold for Monday so we'd have more time to kind of go through this. This was something.
Yeah, this is, we, just for everyone to understand that we went through all of these bills as a bipartisan group. And my concern is that if we hold it, that unfortunately we might not be able to get to it. And so Rep. Dauphine, I submit to you that perhaps you could vote no on this today, and then you and I will work together moving forward before it hits the floor so we can see if all of your questions will be answered. Would that be amenable to you, Madam?
Well, it would be a mandate with regard to this, to the education, correct? I mean, the schools would be required to implement this. Yeah, I think that really changes a lot in this bill. I still think it would have required like just some time to go through it. Yeah, I will remain a no. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Representative Wieslander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank the committee for bringing this up. This is something that I think is incredibly important, that we provide as much easy access to basic information for our families and the school communities, so that if there are any questions or concerns that a child or a student has, or their families or a family contact has, that they are able to get the information that they need without much any hesitancy, and providing access to, we all get a pack of papers at the beginning of a school year that is giving information about school lunches and all of the different programs and opportunities for our students. So including one sheet of paper or one more piece of information, just make sure that we are covering our bases and our families and our students get this information, so they know about it, so they have that access to it. And based on the testimony in support of it, showing that giving more about it, this is actually makes it a stronger bill. I just appreciate the inclusion of all of these aspects. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And just to really back up what you're saying, just to let everyone here on the committee know, I'm doing a series of talks with parents regarding children's mental health. And just the other day, I did have a constituent reach out to me to say, you know what? I think my kid might be having a problem. I'm not sure if they are having a problem. I don't know where to go. Is this just regular teenage angst? Is this just that they want to stay in their room because they're 13, or is it depression? How do I know? So we already see that right now there's a need out there for parents to have a greater understanding of what is normal adolescent behavior versus what is behavior that requires a crisis intervention. So I think that this bill ultimately works to solve that problem. And yep, let's be honest, it's a mandate, but it is a very, very easy mandate to handle. And so, I will comment that there are also some districts who are already doing this. So I think that this is extremely important, and I thank everyone who is supporting that for their support. Senator Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As in a previous couple of other bills, again, this is sort of, I agree with the information here and placing it and informing our parents as where they can turn to. But again, this is an education decision committee decision, and I just want to make the point that this should be referred to either after we voted out of committee, that it should be sent over to the education committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or comments? Representative Comey.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairwoman Linehan. I was just visiting my community's, my school's website here, and they have a wonderful section, which I actually didn't notice before, for parents, with all kinds of support for online learners, for parent resources, everything from COVID-19 resources and goal setting, read aloud, things like that. And the one thing they're missing is sort of the community resources connection. I mean, they've got 10 or 12 pages here just of parent resources, but nothing about what's going on in the community, no links to the community. So I think it would be a wonderful compliment just to remind them as well to the stuff they're already providing in many of our districts. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Representative. And if you would like some of the information that I'm putting together for residents of the state to distribute to your Board of Ed as well as your constituents, we can work together to do that. Thank you for noticing that's really needed. Representative Foster.
I just, as someone who's worked for a lot of my life in a community organization, I think referrals are sort of a key crux to allowing this collaboration. And I think that this is a very low cost, low manpower request, but the benefits are beyond just making the resources available for the families in the community. Now the district has a centralized place to know if someone needs to be making a referral, that it's a benefit for staff as well. So I think that that's just something that's really important to note, because I think that people are often very motivated to get help, they just don't know where to find it. And so I think that this is a really good opportunity to make sure that things are sort of fingertip, one click ready and accessible. So thank you for raising this important bill.
You're very welcome. I would love to take credit for it. It wasn't mine. But it's totally up my alley. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none and seeing none, Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Representative Linehan.
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Anwar.
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Welander.
Representative Welander votes yes.
Senator Bradley.
Senator Bradley votes in the affirmative.
Representative Dauphinais.
Representative Dauphinais votes no.
Senator Martin.
Senator Martin votes yes.
Representative Boyd.
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey.
Representative Comey votes yes.
Representative Foster.
Representative Foster votes yes.
Representative Luxembourg. Representative Green.
Representative Green, yes.
Representative Lanu.
Representative Lanu votes no.
Senator Cohen.
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. We have 3 items left, folks, so we're in the home stretch. Just please bear with us. Thank you. Moving on to number 9, Senate Bill 984, an act concerning children's programs. It's the JF to the floor. Can I have a motion, please?
So move.
And a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Representative. Again, this is another shell bill, and I am sure all of the same thoughts apply. Are there any questions or concerns that want to be brought up about this specifically? Representative Dauphinais.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I won't talk long. I just want you to remind you that I'll be a no, as it's a shell bill. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Madam. I absolutely love your consistency. I just think you're great. I really do. I have to say it. Okay. So is there anyone else? Nope. Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Representative Linehan.
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Anwar. Representative Wheeler.
Senator Anwar votes yes. Did I miss you?
I got you. Representative Wieslander,
Representative Wieslander votes yes.
Senator Bradley,
Senator Bradley votes in the affirmative.
Representative Dauphinais,
Representative Dauphinais votes no.
Senator Martin,
Senator Martin votes yes.
Representative Boyd,
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey,
Representative Comey votes yes.
Representative Foster,
Representative Foster votes yes.
Representative Luxembourg, Representative Green,
Representative Green votes yes.
Representative Lanou,
Representative Lanou votes no.
Senator Cohen,
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Moving on, item number 10, House Bill 6110, an act concerning the online sale and delivery of electronic nicotine delivery systems and vapor products. JFS to the floor, LCO number 5021. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I second that motion.
And I have been informed that we can move this to consent. Can I have a motion to move it to consent?
So moved.
So second.
It looks like we have some discussion. Representative Dauphinais.
I'll be quick, I promise, Madam Chair. I just wanted
got
to
it.
say, I was pleased with the JFS changes it made in this. I think I had concerns with the ID. I think we shared that with regard to discrimination of those that may not have access to that. But most importantly, I think you made it kind of, if you will, mock what they do with the delivery of wine and alcohol. When it arrives at a door, you need to have some sort of form of identification that you're of age to receive that. So I appreciate the change and I will be a yes on this bill.
Thank you so very much, Representative. It's really good to know that we can sit here and show that we worked collaboratively and we're getting this out of committee on consent, all on board. I love it. Thank you so very much, Representative. Would anyone else like to make any comments? Okay, hearing none, this item has been moved to consent. Thank you all very much. The last one of the day, number 11, Senate Bill number 872, an act concerning the Department of Children and Families recommendations for revisions to the statutes concerning children. LCO number 3816. It's a JFS to the floor. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Senator. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. It has been moved and seconded. And this, once again, is the department's bill. And it's just made some minor revisions, bringing us in line with federal standards. Representative Dauphinais.
I'll be quick again. I just wanted to say, I think all my questions were answered with regard with some concerns earlier. I think Jenny did a good job in helping us out with some of that. And I will be a yes on this bill. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Representative. And you know what, you brought up a really great point. I do want to take a moment here right now to thank the department and to thank Vinny personally. You're right, he did come through with a lot of great information and answering a lot of questions. And I think that this is something that we've been seeing a lot from the department in general, that they are willing and open to answer any questions that we have, and they do so quickly and thoroughly, and that makes our job a lot easier. So thank you to everyone involved, Vin Russo, the commissioner, and everyone. So thank you so much. Senator, would you like to say a few words?
I just wanted to move this to consent.
Yes, yes, we have a motion to move consent. Is there any
Need a second.
any dissent?
Comey second.
Great. Okay, the item is moved to consent. So that brings us to needing to vote on the consent calendar. Mr. Clerk.
Today's consent calendar includes House Bill 6566, House Bill 6508, House Bill 6510, House Bill 6110, and Senate Bill 872. Representative Linehan.
Representative Linehan votes yes.
Senator Anwar.
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Wieslander.
Representative Wieslander votes yes.
Senator Bradley.
Senator Bradley votes in the affirmative.
Representative Dauphinais.
Representative Dauphinais votes yes.
Senator Martin.
Senator Martin votes yes.
Representative Boyd.
Representative Boyd, aye.
Representative Comey.
Representative Comey votes yes.
Representative Foster.
Representative Foster votes yes.
Representative Luxembourg. Representative Green.
Representative Green votes yes.
Representative Lanu.
Representative Lanu votes yes.
Senator Cohen.
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Senator Moore.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Just a reminder that votes are held open until 4 o'clock or until the last member votes, whichever comes first. We do have our final JF meeting on Monday. And Mr. Clerk, is that at 1 o'clock or do we do earlier, sir?
I believe it's 10:30 or 11.
Ooh.
Okay, I see that Rep. Dauphinais is unhappy with that. It's okay, madam, if you want to show up in your pajamas, with a cup of coffee, we're good. It's Zoom,
not-
it doesn't matter.
I was hoping it would be at 1 because traditionally you do like to do 1 o'clock. Is that not a possibility?
I do love to do 1 o'clock. I actually, for some reason, it was not a possibility. I think it was the Zoom issue. Is that right, Peter?
There were other committees that are meeting later, so we didn't have full access to a room.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. We'll try to be as quick as possible, though, Ann. Senator Martin.
Yes, I also have a conflict. I have a finance, bonding and revenue committee public hearing that morning. So I will do what I can.
Great, thank you, sir. Keep in mind, this is our final JF meeting. So we will see about keeping votes open. I'm sure we'll try to figure out a way to do that. And thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your collaboration. And thank you all for your commitment to children. We are in recess. Oh, wait, sorry, we're not yet. Representative Dauphinais.
Madam Chair, when do you think the agenda will be ready for Monday's meeting?
It has to be ready by a certain time. We're trying to get it done sooner. Mr. Clerk, what do you think?
I do know we're just waiting on a little bit of confirmation on what bills will go out, but I can have that. It has to be posted by Sunday at 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you. I mean, due to our conflicts and it being an earlier meeting, it would be helpful to get it out to us as soon as possible so we can review it and be prepared for you.
Yeah, you know what we can do, Representative? While we're working on the agenda, the things that we know that are going to go on and that we already have the substitute language for, we'll get it to you sooner. If you don't mind things getting to you in bits and pieces, and you don't mind me contacting you on a weekend.
That's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll do it that way. So I'll be in touch.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. Okay, and Senator Anwar, do you want to say your goodbyes? I see you're unmuted.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your effort and listening and your votes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We are in recess. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.
Representative Foster and Senator Bradley, you both missed votes. If you'd like to take them now.
I would like to, yes, please. Sorry.
Perfect. 1 second. Representative Foster, I only missed you on one, and it was HB 6509.
Representative Foster votes in the affirmative.
Thank you. You are all set. Have a great day.
Thank you for everything you did.
Anytime. Hello, Senator.
Hello.
All right.
Peter.
So I need you for HB 6565.
Vote in the affirmative.
Awesome.
Senator Bradley votes in the affirmative. I don't know if you need me to say the whole.
No,
verbiage.
I got you on the camera now. 6511.
I'm voting in the affirmative.
6417.
Voting in the affirmative.
You are all set, sir.
Thank you very much. Hey, thank you, Peter. Bye.
Hey,
Hello, representatives. How are you?
good. Let's do it up.
All right. Let's see. Okay. First one I have you, or I need you on is HB 6417.
Representative Luxembourg votes yes.
Senate Bill 934.
Representative Luxembourg votes yes. Consent calendar too, right?
Yes, but after Senate Bill 984.
Okay. Representative Luxembourg votes yes.
And yes, the consent calendar.
Representative Luxembourg votes yes.
All right. Thank you for your time today and have a great day.
You too. Thanks a million, Peter. Good to see you.
Always. Have a good one. Bye.
See ya.